The sweet center of the movie is Wood's resurrection of horror actor Bela Lugosi, a despairing drug addict who is played brilliantly by Martin Landau. That's right, that blurb from Harper Barnes of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. One of our old movies this week is Ed Wood, with Tim Burton enjoying boffo box office success with Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, I thought I would go back and watch what for Tim Burton is his favorite movie and certainly his most personal film. Ed Wood among the old movies. We got a ton more to get to. No Way Out, I finally saw with Kevin Costner enjoying just an absolute crushing right now with his Horizon saga. I said, let me go back and watch the movie that made him a star in many ways. The same year as The Untouchables, No Way Out. I finally saw it. Him and Gene Hackman. I got that review coming up. People versus Larry Flynt is currently on Criterion. They're doing Courtroom Drama Month. Never saw it. Finally knocked it out. Woody Harrelson, Courtney Love. Hot Tub Time Machine, which my buddy Chaconi told me years ago is really funny. It's only give it a chance. I'm pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed that film. And one more for you. Got to do a Scorsese movie, Cape Fear. That's right. The remake years ago, 14 years, Counselor, a favorite of me and Harry's, had to dive in for De Niro, Nick Nolte, etc. As far as our new movie is concerned, no new movie, but new show, The Penguin. Massive acclaim right now, 94% Rotten Tomatoes as it is unveiled on HBO. And I do appreciate the fact they will not let you binge it all in one night. 5 episodes, you got to wait every week on Max and enjoy each new episode. And as far as our wild card is concerned, Joseph Maddio is one of the stars of The Penguin, plays one of the mobsters, and he's also in a new film called The Featherweight boxing movie, which is playing in limited release. It's playing in New York City at the Quad Cinemas. It's also playing in Connecticut, about 15 theaters there as well. So make sure you check that out. We taped an interview last week. In the interview, I said it got its world premiere in New York. I misspoke. It was actually premiered at the Venice Film Festival, but it was also playing in New York as well. So curious to talk to James. He'll talk about The Penguin and talk about some other stuff as well. Harry's got stories from the road, which we'll get to in a second. And we've all been waiting for 2 weeks with bated breath for this story about the date in Paris, Texas, and Wim Wenders. But let's not bury the lead and get this out of the way right now. This is going to be the final episode of Cinephile. 8 years, 333 episodes. This has been an absolute blast, and I'm so grateful to each and every one of you for listening. What went down is this. Shortly after the Academy Awards, which was a big success for Meadowlark Media, myself, David Sampson, and Ben Lyons teaming up together. As Sampson will tell people, as he just said on the show last week to me and El Hassan, we had more people fill out Oscar ballots and March Madness ballots through Meadowlark. So it was a real success. Credit to the entire team. But my buddy Dan Levitard called me afterwards and said, listen, I got bad news. We're going to be unable to renew your contract May 1st. I said, okay, I totally understand. He said, it's not that you're not great. It's not that the podcast isn't great. It's just that DraftKings, which bankrolls us, needs daily podcasts. They don't want any more weekly podcasts. Since you're a weekly podcast, thus you're expendable. I said, okay, I totally understand. Thank you again for a wonderful 3 years. He said, you're not going anywhere. You're going to be a part of this show. You'll be on the Dan Levitard show. You'll be doing segments, talking movies, baseball, etc. So I figured we had 6 weeks to end it, and I did so with relish. And then Bimal Kapadia, who's our COO at Meadowlark, had an ingenious idea. I said, listen, why don't we keep this thing going? Rather than having a stoppage in time, so to speak, that will hurt your prospects. While your agent shops for a new home, we'll keep this going. And I said, okay, great. And Dan said, listen, I need Cody for Levitard's show, but see what we can do. Carl dials up Harry Krinsky, who comes in. And what happens here, it's fantastic. I feel reinvigorated. Harry is, as built, a true cinephile and funny and interesting and smart. And Carl's like, dude, I knew you were going to like him, dude. I was like, I asked him for his favorite movies, but that was great. But what's happened is that today, September 24th, 2024, is actually the 22nd anniversary of me being on television. The first time I was ever on TV, September 24th, way back when, if you do the math, 22 years ago, 2002 was my first day at Omni hosting Bollywood Boulevard. And I think this is the right time to end it because it's been 6 months that my agent has been trying to find a deal elsewhere. We've been unable to do so. And quite frankly, I think it is incredibly generous that Meadowlark allowed me to do this. Most places would say your contract's up, that's it, see ya. They allowed me to keep the pod going while I look for other ventures, other places. That hasn't happened. So I don't want to waste Harry's time. I don't want to waste Meadowlark's time. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. We tried. It was a ton of fun. It was 333 episodes. We had incredible guests. We had some laughs. It was awesome. I think now is the time to move things on. On a personal note, the news finally came out yesterday. I'll also be traveling. I have a new gig with Amazon Prime. I've been doing 20 hockey games that I'll be hosting. So 5 more times I get to go back to Toronto and see my folks. 5 trips to Montreal, one of my favorite cities. Not quite as enthused for 3 trips to Winnipeg and 2 to Edmonton. We'll see how that goes. Hey, I've never been. If a Canadian, I got to see the whole country. This is like Harry's trip to Oklahoma we're going to get to in a second. I'm sure there was definitely some similarities with Winnipeg, Manitoba, and Norman, Oklahoma. But I'm really excited the fact, again, I will continue next week with MLB Network and the baseball playoffs, NHL Network. And again, this new Amazon Prime gig as Cinephile will be going away. I want to thank Harry. I'll do all my formal thank yous at the end. And again, I appreciate all of you for your support along the way. The only person, by the way, that knows I was going to say this is Harry. Well, he told on Friday because we taped our interview with James Maddio. I thought it would surprising the entire world. But I said, at least I got to let my producer know. And then after this, I'm going to email Dan and Bimmel and the entire crew. But thank you, as always, for supporting Cinephile along the way. Now, at long last, we've been waiting, Harry. Wim Wenders, 1984, Paris, Texas. How'd the day go?
Okay, I will tell you this date story, but then we got to return briefly to you leaving because I have something,
Okay, sure.
a little something planned. I'll tell you about the date. So I really did not like the movie Paris, Texas when I initially watched it. It's this 1984 cult film. It's extremely beautifully shot. It's this amazing kind of like landscapes of the American Southwest, but it's just like nothing fucking happens in the whole movie. It's like every shot is 6 times as long as you want it to be. The movie barely makes any sense. There's like whatever. The story doesn't even matter. So a few weeks ago, it was re-releasing for maybe some 20th anniversary at IFC, this big film festival or this big film place in New York City. And my friend Adam Yates, who's a great filmmaker in his own right, is like, "Oh, I'm going to see Paris, Texas. Like, I can't wait. 4K resolution." And I'm like, "Dude, spare it. Fucking movie sucks. Don't even go. It's not worth it." He's like, "Whatever. Fuck you. You don't like good movies."
I'm loving this guy, by the way.
Yeah. He goes and sees it. He's like, gives it 5 stars. He's like, "That's one of the best favorite movies I've ever seen, Harry. You're like, you're an idiot." And so we're going in this group chat back and forth. I'm like, "This movie sucked. It's like horrible. Why? Like, what possibly did you like about it?" He's like, "You don't like art, all this stuff." At the same time, the same day, I'm in this group chat. One second. In the other chat, I am texting with a lady that I am about to go on a first date with. And just we hadn't met each other. She was like, "Oh, what day are you free?" I was like, "Oh, I'm free Monday. Are you around Monday?" She's like, "Oh, I am free Monday, but I gotta say, Paris, Texas is playing at IFC, and I really, really want to go to the 4K resolution. Like,
Wow.
would you want to go with me?" And I am like, "Yes, I guess." In the same day that I am like tomahawk slam dunking on Paris, Texas, I am also like getting ready, showering, and going to go see the movie for the second time in 4K. And so I'm, I have to, I don't want to be I'll tell you what, not a good first date experience is to show up and be like, "Oh, the movie that you're excited about, it fucking sucks." So, I'm kind of like, I'm tempering my, she's like, what do you like think about it? I'm like, "Yeah, it's okay." And we get in the movie, I've seen great movie theater, whatever. I did not like the movie again. For 2. She is, and I get this. It's a great. People love this movie. She is
Yeah.
very moved by the movie. She leaves the movie. It got some tears running down her eyes, and so I need to sort of
Wow.
be like, "So what did you think about it?" She's like, "It was just so beautiful," and I'm like sitting there being like, I it's like half asleep for half this movie. What do I tell this person? And so I muscle through that, and we go on our way. I'm sort of half tell her that I didn't love the movie, but yeah. So it was just this hilarious kismet that
Oh
I ended up
man.
going
So not
twice.
to get into your business, of course. There was no nightcap here. It was just movie. All
It
right,
was
on your
moving
way.
out. It wasn't it was a good day, but the yeah, we did not we were not seeing eye to eye on the movie, I would say.
Which is why I admire you because you're honest, right? A different kind of different situation goes, well, you know what? I'm trying to get somewhere here. So yeah, no, I agree with you. And you're like, no, I'm going to be honest. I'll be polite. I'll be respectful, but I'm not. That's a true cinephile. I'm not going to kowtow to this crap. It wasn't good. Period.
And it's helpful. I felt more emboldened saying it was bad because it's such a popular, well respected movie. If it
Right.
was like a little indie film and I was like, "This movie sucks," and then
Yeah.
I'm like just poo pooing. But everybody, it just wasn't for me. Uh, so
I
yeah,
haven't seen it, but I back you up. It was because when you first said Paris, Texas, I raised an eyebrow. I go, Vim Vendors? You're like, yeah, I got
yeah.
90. All I know about it is a Vim Vendors movie, and it's the 40th anniversary. I know nothing about the movie. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, and I was like, I'm with you on Vendors being polarizing. The Wings of Desire is great, but then there's other stuff that I'm not as into. So I like the fact you dunked on it. Good for you.
So the opposite of dunking is raising up. That's a nice segue right there. But when you told me about Cinephile ending, I was really sad, obviously, and I was trying to think about what the best way to kind of sum it all up was. And the people who could speak to this better than me, I think, are the friends and family of Cinephile. So I reached out to some Cinephile FNFs. I reached out to uh, uh, Dan Stanzik. I reached out to Chris Cody, and I reached out to Claire Atkins, and I
Oh
got
my
them to
God. Okay.
record a little mini goodbye thing. So I can play it for you if you want to hear it.
Oh yeah, pleasant surprise. When you said you had some from my guess was something from Sam. I go, Sam Morrell, maybe you told me, hey, give him a goodbye. But this
Oh
is
yeah,
even
yeah.
better. The fact we got Danny and friends here. Okay.
Adnan, Cinephile is over? Did we get Scorsese? What'd you ask him? Hopefully you didn't bloviate about the supposed brilliance of silence. I'd rather enjoy 2.5 hours of actual silence than watch that. Seriously, as sad as this is, this podcast, a true passion project of yours, brought joy to a lot of people, myself included. I've told you this before, but there is nothing in my professional career that I am more proud of than Cinephile. We started this podcast in an ancient studio in Building 5 in the Bristol campus, and within a year, you were at the Oscars. A year later, I was at the Oscars with you, asking Kobe Bryant a question in the media room, and then taking a picture with you and him in the hallway a few minutes later. That is insane how quickly that happened. You have had plenty of big names in the pod over the years: Robert De Niro, Miles Teller, Margot Robbie, Mahershala Ali, Judd Apatow, and Michael Shannon come to mind. But the real engine of the podcast, the thing that kept us all coming back, was you. Your reviews about new and old films, your months-long love affair with Paul Giamatti movies, your updates on concession costs and trailer lengths, as well as your wildly entertaining stories, including waiting outside the bathroom to accost celebrities at award shows, coaching Little League Baseball at Steve Levy, the time you got your car fixed, the fan who drove you around a city, your win at the Emmys, and many others. I'll miss this podcast tremendously, but I am sure glad that it happened. Cinephile forever.
All right, now we got Claire.
That was very touching. Wow, fantastic.
Adnan, it's
excellent
Claire.
writer, so I knew his would be good.
I feel like this is just a goodbye for now to Cinephile, but what a ride and adventure you've had. No one I'd rather hear a hot take on a Marvel film or a blasting of the Joker from. Thank you for allowing me to be a small part of this journey and to have my first ever and likely last personalized segment music. Always remember, less plot, more dialogue, and Ethan Hawke in First Reformed will always have been robbed.
Yeah, Ethan Hawke First Reformed. Way to go, Claire Bear. By the way, she's right. The reason I'm ending it now, it's an excellent point. I get to avoid Joker too, so thank God I'm going to be avoiding that.
All right, and then we got Chris. Well, I'll tell you afterwards my process.
Adnan, what's up? I love you. Can't believe Cinephile's ending. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it for as long as I was. So many good times. I got you, Ray Romano. Don't forget that. You are the best, Adnan. You were always so kind to me, no matter how out of my depth I was producing a movie podcast. You were always super cool, super kind, just the best. Just like I anytime anyone brings up Adnan Virk, I shout so quickly that guy's a friend of mine and that guy is awesome. And that is as awesome as he seems on TV, he's somehow even better in a one-on-one situation. You are... Like, usually people have to turn it on for TV. You turn it down for TV. You are so fundamentally energetic and great and kind and sweet and smart. And God damn, your movie takes are so good. And if you just transcribe all your Cinephile, there's your next idea, Adnan. You need to write a book and just and have AI write it by just transcribing every Cinephile episode. That is a damn good movie book, dude. Like, you are so good. I just remember listening back while editing you and just hearing like minute clips where I would just be like, holy shit, is this guy good at this? Your listeners are going to miss you. I don't want you to stop. I think that people who appreciate movies and love movies, like, you are a talent when it comes to movies, my friend. And that is coming from a guy that just saw Godfather 2 for the first time ever. So I loved it, by the way. Good flick. I can't believe that. But I love you, Adnan. And I know you're going to keep crushing it and doing good things. And this isn't goodbye, because I think you're coming on the Levitard show this Friday. So I'll talk to you later. See you, man.
I love you too, right. Chris Cody. Indeed, I am on the Dan Le Batard show on Friday, and I'll be on Roy's hockey podcast as well. This Amazon news coming out here. Roy wants me to talk a little puck, so we'll talk Panthers. Man, Cody's the best. What a very humbling message. God, I'm going to start Getting emotional here. Jeez, you got the waterworks going on
I'm
me here.
sorry,
I wasn't
you
expecting
know.
this. I was just going to say a little goodbye and get out of here. And all of a sudden, I'm at my own funeral. People are kissing me goodbye. This is great.
People love the show, you know. So those were my people. I couldn't get out to everybody in the quick turnaround, but you know, I know how much the people around the show care about it, myself included. So
No, I really appreciate that, man. That's very classy of you. And again, this last 13 episodes with you has been a blast. As I said, reinvigorated me, re-energized me. I'm glad that we were able to keep the machine rolling. All right. Enough pomp and circumstance. Let's talk the Penguin. What a surprise that I would like a show about a pudgy Italian-American mobster who has mommy issues on HBO. Like, wait, are we redoing this? Are we doing The Sopranos again? Let's go. But I thought it was fantastic. You know, ever since I've been seeing the trailer, I got excited about it. The Batman itself, I don't know Harry's take on the movie. I liked it. I thought it was a little dark. I mean, like visually dark, thematically dark. I get that Batman's dark, but I'm like, are we going to get to the point of just pure nihilism in the next Batman iteration? Like it's just going to be a black screen and just 9 Inch Nails the entire time? Like, I know it's dark, but man, give me a glimmer of hope once in a while. Give me a little bit of comedy. Come on. So I did enjoy the movie. Pattinson's great. He's got unbelievable hair. I've always said if I could be anybody, I'd be Robert Pattinson. Handsome guy, just incredible hair once again. So I did enjoy the movie. And one of the things I enjoyed most about it was Colin Farrell, who was unrecognizable as the Penguin, was in it very briefly. So I can't wait to see more of that guy. Dana was good. I remember Mike Ryan telling me he thought he overacted a little bit. The scene where he starts singing Ave Maria, but I was like, yeah, whatever. He's having a good time. These indie actors, they finally get their big chance at a big movie. You're going to expect he's going to chew some scenery a little bit. But anyways, that was our first glimpse of Colin Farrell and the Penguin. And my wife said, oh, so we have to watch the movie first. I said, no, this is an origin story. This is a separate standalone thing. And what I liked about the Penguin is that you don't have to know Batman. You don't have to know the Penguin to figure out what's happening. It just drops you in right away, hits the ground running. I believe it's only a 5-part limited series. I like the fact, again, that HBO makes you wait every week. So you're watching the show, you can indulge in it. I actually watched the premiere twice, which makes it sound like I'm a rabid fan. It's more the fact I watched it first, didn't want to lie to my wife. She goes, did you watch it already? I'm like, yes, but I'll watch it again with you. Okay, good. So we got that out of the way. But everything I really enjoyed about it, I thought it was atmospheric. I thought it was appropriately dark. I think Colin Farrell is fantastic. I mean, he is unrecognizable in the film, just drowning in latex. Yes, my wife says it doesn't even sound like him. I'm like, yeah, he goes, it's completely an immersive performance from Farrell. The shot of his feet are rough. Oh my God. The scars, everything about him. I mean, he's working, to quote Laurence Olivier, he's working on the outside in, right? Method acting is actually working the inside out, but this is outside in. Like, give me all this stuff. And then by giving me all the prosthetics and all that, I will morph into this character and become this nasty, very unlikable mobster. I like the supporting cast as well. I looked at a couple of the reviews. I didn't want to read too much, but I saw people raving about Kristen Milioti, and she's awesome. I loved her in Palm Springs, the Andy Samberg movie, and she's very good here playing one of the gangsters as well. I don't want to give away too much again because it's the only premiere episode, but like I said, I thought they hit the ground running. I thought it was intriguing. I thought it was well shot. Shout out to James Maddio coming up soon as he'll talk about his performance in The Penguin and what it was like being on that project. But out of the gate, I think it's a success for HBO. I believe it had 4.3 million views, something like that in the first 4 days. It apparently blew Succession out of the water in terms of debuts about much ballyhooed shows. I think Succession found their footing over time, of course, becoming one of the great shows. But good news for the Penguin. I'm giving it 3 Maple Leafs. I enjoyed it. Harry, what do you got?
I really liked it. I agree with you that it does a good job of being this sort of atmospheric, moody, mafia-esque show, but also is pretty funny. Like there are some funny. Farrell plays a few things kind of in the more goofy variety. He's a little bit doesn't have his shit together all the time, which is fun. I was talking to my brother loves Colin Farrell. He says Colin Farrell's a favorite actor ever, which I understand. You know, this is a great actor, and he was a little disappointed by the Penguin. He was like, it was good, but was it really all that good? And what I said to him, which I believe is, sure, as a tentpole HBO show, yes, I don't think this show is as dialed in as a Succession or Industry or Sopranos or whatever. But as a superhero, as a fun take on a superhero world, DC Universe miniseries, it's awesome. And it adds the superhero. It's very watchable in the way that a superhero movie or a series is, but it also has these kind of like moody moments. I really liked it. My one note, it's funny you bring up the Sopranos thing, is there was a little bit, I really was like, are we really hitting the same beats? Like the fat guy's got an issue with his mom? Like that? It's like that's the same thing, that who's like descending into madness herself. So that part I was a little bit like maybe something else than the same origin story as the Sopranos, but it's Italian Americans love their moms. What are you gonna do?
No, but you're right about that. It's a good call. I'm like, if it was a dad, if it was an uncle, a brother, uncle or Uncle June, I guess, but it could be a brother, something like that. You're right. As soon as it was the mom and the mom was kvetching and complaining about it, I'm like, oh, you're right. Like, oh my God, I'm like, yeah, really cribbing from The Sopranos here. So I'm with you on that note as a criticism. We'll see what happens with that character. But hey, man, steal from the best. That's the motto, clearly.
Right.
Let's do some old movies first, and we'll get to James Maddio. Let's do Cape Fear first, because I know Harry's a big fan of that movie as well. Wasn't planning on it, but I said, final episode, let's do one more Scorsese movie. And I was flipping channels. And yes, I'm still that guy who flips channels and figures out what to do. Most people, they just hop on their streaming app. Here's I'm going to plan my day. I was like, no, I'm just flipping channels. Nothing really to do. Kids are at school. I'm like, oh, Cape Fear's on AMC. I'm like, let's go. That was a pleasant surprise at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. And it's just a fantastic movie. What I enjoy about it is that generally I'm skittish when it comes to remakes. But I think what Scorsese did with this, and I've seen the original. I of course, adore Robert Mitchum, one of my favorite actors. What he did, though, is he made it, completely much more sinister and darker and really kind of dirtied up the protagonist. In the original, Mitchum's clearly evil and Gregory Peck is clearly good. And Mitchum's a stalker. And he's having a blast. He's funny. He's entertaining. He's vicious. He's all the things you'd expect out of your villain. But Peck is really a straight arrow. He's very much like he might as well be Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird. In this version, Marty really kind of puts in his own spin, which is that Nolte himself had an affair in the past. He's flirting with Ileana Douglas. He's got a little something going on there. He's not a particularly good father. At one point, grabs Juliette Lewis's face, gets angry, loses his temper. Jessica Lange herself doesn't seem to be exactly an angel. So he already has some fractures in this familial relationship. And then De Niro's Max Cady comes in there and completely uproots and upsets it all. And what I particularly love about the movie is just how strong it is in the first 2/3 of it. It's the rare movie to me that you'd think a movie like this, a thriller, would build up towards the climax, which I'll get to in a second, but actually enjoyed the other stuff more. I think the way that De Niro kind of comes on and he's so malevolent and just gets under his skin, he's so creepy, I think is fabulous. And it's funny to watch it now. I can't watch it. I think of The Simpsons, but that first scene where he's watching Problem Child and he's got the big cigar and he's laughing. Later on, of course, Simpsons did that with Sideshow Bob, laughing away and acting like a buffoon. But it's unmistakably De Niro getting out of the skin of Nolte. And then later on, when he first meets him in the parking lot, the way he mumbles as he pulls away, you're going to learn about loss. And the way he keeps repeating like a mantra, 14 years, counselor, 14 years. I really don't think you know what we're talking about here. It's the way that Nolte tries to buy him off and goes, listen, you want some money? I'll give you 10 grand. He's like, well, let's do the math on this. He's like, 14 years, 5 times a week. He goes, that's not even $10 a day. That's not even minimum wage for suffering my entire life. And I'm like, oh, it's amazing with the logic that he uses on him. And one of the best early scenes, and again, great move by Marty here. Okay, I'm going to remake a film. Of course, I'm going to get 2 of my favorite actors in it, but I'm going to flip it. So Mitchum is the bad guy in the original. In this movie, he's a cop, and Gregory Peck is an attorney who's representing Max Cady, De Niro's character. That first scene where Mitchum walks in, and it's him and Nolte as De Niro's being brought in for the strip search, and he goes, "Don't worry, Mr. Bolden. It's a two-way mirror. You can say whatever you like." And he takes off his clothes, and again, one thing about Marty, he's going to put all that religious iconography in there. And as De Niro takes off his shirt, you see the giant cross, the scales of judgment, quotes from the Bible about sin and forgiveness and being redeemed. And I'm like, oh my God, it's unmistakably a Scorsese movie dealing with guilt and redemption. And then Mitchum has one of the best lines in the entire film when he says, I don't know whether to look at him or read him. Which, remember, Wesley Strick, the screener, I can't remember if he came up with the line or Mitchum ad-libbed it, but either way, it's absolutely brilliant. And again, Peck is great because he's playing, again, the attorney who later represents De Niro, and he's like one of these biblical figures. King Solomon himself could not have adjudicated any better than this. So I love the fact that Marty was an homage for getting those guys in there. But it's an unsettling movie. De Niro himself is unbelievable. I mean, this is kind of like what Hugh Jackman did with Wolverine, in that I gotta say, Bob's probably at this point late 40s. Jackman's in his 50s, but like he gets in incredible shape. And Marty's told stories about, because De Niro would wake up like 3 a.m. and, work out 4 hours a day. Like he is just chiseled this way, the long hair. And of course, De Niro is always a prep fiend. He went to prisons in Georgia and Alabama and specifically met with prisoners who had committed rape. And he said he audio taped them and he wanted to get the accents down, the dialects down. And he said, the biggest thing I learned was that, so much of it's about a control. Like the guys who commit these crimes is about exerting their control. And that scene where he's first flirting with Ileana Douglas, who's Nick Nolte's squash partner and works the same legal department, and then he goes and rapes her, is like unbelievably tough to watch. I could, even on AMC with edited, I had a tough time watching it. And they took out the one line where he says, "I got you now, bitch," and he punches her. But I'm like, oh my God, it's It's a gruesome scene to watch, but it just shows what a monster this guy is. And again, De Niro's dedication to the role. And when Nolte ends up seeing her in the hospital, she starts crying, says, "Oh, Sam," I'm like, it's heartbreaking to watch it. But again, this is who this guy is. He's a rapist. He is out for vengeance, and he means business. And this film is not going to look away from what he represents and what he is. And I can see the appeal for De Niro. In many ways, it's like, I get to play the Terminator. Like, he just plays this unstoppable villain who just gets to really be pure malevolence. And he was rewarded with an Academy Award nomination. I'm like, movies like this don't normally get Oscar nominations. It's a thriller, but he was up for Best Actor. Juliette Lewis is nominated for Best Supporting Actress. She's playing this teenager. Her famous scene is the one where De Niro pretends to be the drama teacher, and he goes, "Maybe I'm the big bad wolf," and he starts seducing her. The scene where he puts his thumb in her mouth, that was ad lib. She starts sucking his thumb. Like, it's absolutely filthy. The scene itself, while watching it again, I think it's a little long, a little drawn out, but that scene alone is, it is repulsive and repugnant, and yet seductive, because that's what this guy Max Cady has over this girl Danielle. And then he actually kisses her, and you're like, "Oh my God, this is disgusting in so many ways." Jessica Lange, another Academy Award winner. She's in the film. She plays Nick Nolte's wife. She's fabulous, especially the scene where she gets mad at Nolte, knowing that he's talking to Illeana Douglas on the side, brings up the past infidelity. And Nolte's great. As I've said before, Jeff Pavir, one of my favorite film critics ever, the Toronto Star, once said of Nick Nolte, he has a voice like a talking ashtray. And it's accurate and funny. And Nolte's awesome because, like, Nick Nolte's a tough guy. I mean, in 1991, he won People's Sexiest Man Alive because he's a rugged, handsome guy. My wife disputes this. She goes, "I cannot believe you think he's handsome." He goes, "Not me. People magazine. The world said he's the sexiest man alive." She goes, "No, I go, not now. Not like when Conan is putting his DUI picture up to the rafters. That's different. I'm talking Nick Nolte, 91. This guy's bringing the heat. And he is a tough guy, but that's why I like in the movie. He kind of shrinks a little bit, and he allows De Niro to be menacing. And he's the one who's ineffectual and incompetent and can't get things done, and tries to hire the great Joe Don Baker to try to take down De Niro. He can't do it. The scene where De Niro dressed up in drag clearly feels like Christopher Nolan was inspired when Heath Ledger is dressed up as a nurse in The Dark Knight, with the way that De Niro pulls the string and starts choking that guy. "Well, you like that, you white trash piece of shit?" It's a hell of a movie. So that gets us to the ending, which you think you'd love. Movie like this is building towards it. But I just thought it was too ridiculous and too over the top. First off, De Niro, he puts his belt and attaches himself to the bottom of the car for 50 miles. Like that. Okay, that's already a reach. And that whole final scene, Marty said while doing it, he wanted to kind of see if he could do what his good friend Steven Spielberg does. And how about this backstory? Originally, Spielberg had the rights to Cape Fear. Marty had Schindler's List. Being good friends, they traded it. He goes,
Wow.
"Steven, this is closer to you. Being Jewish, you can make this. And I really want to do Cape Fear." I could just imagine Scorsese's Schindler's List. I mean, it's all of a sudden now the focus is clearly much more on Ralph Fiennes, knowing his proclivities and his interests. It's much more about Eamon Goth. I can't imagine what Liam Neeson's character comes through, or Ben King's, etc. Would have been a lot more violent. And that's not to say it isn't a violent movie, but I couldn't imagine the way Marty would have just shoved your face in the Holocaust. So it's one of the great what ifs. Imagine him doing Schindler's List and Spielberg doing Cape Fear. Regardless, they switch. And in the climax, he said, "I wanted to do a Spielbergian type climax. Something like Jaws, something like Hitchcock, the boats all over the place." So there's a lot of razzle dazzle. There's fun filmmaking craft, but it just gets so preposterous. At one point, Juliette Lewis grabs the pot of boiling water, throws it into De Niro's face, and he says, "Are you offering me something hot?" Just ridiculous. Later on, he gets lit on fire with lighter fluid, comes back, is now quoting again from the Bible, these biblical verses about vengeance. It's great. But then he starts looking at the camera as if the camera is the judge. He's like, "I'm sorry, Your Honor, here's a hostile witness." And he looks back at him, and I'm like, this is just getting too ridiculous. But is it fun? Absolutely. Is it bonkers? Yeah. And in Scorsese's filmography, it's very interesting because it's one of the few films he made up until that point that was a genuine hit. Goodfellas was a modest hit. Taxi Driver, a modest hit. Raging Bull lost money. Mean Streets was an independent film, which was known by film critics and movie lovers, but didn't make money. So most movies never made money. And then Cape Fear was a legit hit. It cost $25 million, made $75 billion. It was important in his trajectory. Wolf of Wall Street's his most profitable film. That made over $400 million worldwide, which is crazy. Guy's in his 70s and he makes the biggest hit of his life. But Cape Fear was an important film, an interesting film, and I think over time you appreciate it more because you see so many thrillers like that. It's essentially a cat and mouse game, but it's done so in the hands of a master who does it in a really special way. Harry, your thoughts on Cape Fear?
The two things that stick out to me are, one, just De Niro as that villain is such a striking image, him with all the tats, like that to me, it's one of my favorite De Niro performances because it's just he it, in a way it's kind of like stripped back, like I don't he's just kind of like a buff prison guy, like there's no whatever, but in another way it's so kind of maximalist and all these tattoos and he's puffing the cigar and his hair is like greasy as hell. So it's a really kind of striking De Niro thing. The other funny thing, and this is just how movies sort of age and your memory of them, is I've only seen the movie once and I saw it probably a year or two ago. And I remember that final boat scene as like, I'm really locked in. I'm like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? I wonder if looking back, with a rewatch, I would start to be a little bit like, what this is suddenly like a superhero. He is like the Terminator. He can survive everything. She's the daughter somehow also looked like an action hero and is able to like maneuver the boat like Spider-Man. So that makes sense that maybe that part wouldn't have aged as well. But that first watch, that boat scene is stuck in my head a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. The first time I saw it, like that, like I said, it's got a lot of razzle dazzle to it. It's got a lot of chutzpah to it. It's really well filmed and well shot. I'm sure it's a gigantic pain in the ass to shoot all that stuff. They're in the water, etc. But it's watching it so many years later, I was not as enamored of it, pointing out holes with it. But if you haven't seen Cape Fear, make sure you check it out. It's definitely a very entertaining film from arguably America's greatest filmmaker. All right, let's get through a few more other old movies here. The People versus Larry Flynt is currently available on Criterion. I finally wanted to watch it, so I got around to it. Woody Harrelson, fantastic actor, excellent performance, playing Larry Flynt, the man who invented the Hustler magazine. A rags to riches type story. He's basically working in a strip club. How else can I make things more successful? Okay, I'm going to do this nudie magazine, and it won't be like Playboy, but a little bit more filthy, a little bit more difficult. And the movie isn't necessarily a pervert's paradise. It's really a focus into the First Amendment and why someone should be allowed to do this no matter what, because this is America and you should have that freedom of speech, whether or not you enjoy pornographic material or not, or you have a personal revulsion to it, you should have the right to be able to do it. And that's really what the essence of the film is. Milos Forman is the director. Of course, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, one of my all-time favorite movies. Thought he did a really good job with it. Edward Norton plays his attorney, long-suffering attorney, because they do a lot of crap there from Larry Flynt. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good courtroom thriller. I thought the second half got a little too courtroomy. Like in a courtroom drama, I like the drama. I get a little less courtroomy. Once it gets more sermonizing and more speeches, I'm like, okay, no, I got it. First Amendment. Yep, he's a perv. He's kind of a pig. He does drugs. He disabuses women. But okay, he's allowed to do it because it's the First Amendment. Understood. Can we just move on with the rest of the story? Courtney Love is the one who I was really interested to see. Because remember at the time, there was this real thought like, oh my God, she's a revelation. And in watching the film, I was both struck by her because whenever she's in the film, she's certainly notable. Like she really captures the screen and she captures Larry Flynt's attention. Woody Harrelson really falls in love with her and they get it on. But at the same time, she never really showed much range. Like I remember at the time thinking, 1996, Courtney Love's going to become a movie star. And I was like, no, this is just her. Like she's just a sexed up drug addict and that's about all she can do. But in the movie, is she, again, notable? Does she capture the imagination? Yeah. And is she memorable, especially later on in the movie when she gets all strung out? I mean, she's buff naked in the hot tub, and it's like, oof, like it's rough. And of course, you can't watch it not think about Kurt Cobain and their own drug issues and Nirvana and all the rest of it. But Woody really is the headliner. I mean, he's an excellent actor. He has been for years. He's underappreciated in some ways, I think, because people just think of Cheers and okay, he smokes a lot of weed. He's kind of a goofy guy, but like he can give great performances. Natural Born Killers, I think, is a hell of a movie. And I think in People versus Larry Flynt, he showed his range and his talent, and especially after he's crippled in the chair and the way he gets the voice going and stuff. You're all fired, okay? Like I think he's really a talented actor, and I enjoyed watching. If you like a good courtroom drama, I recommend The People versus Larry Flynt. What I really wanted to get to though is Ed Wood. I'll give it 3 Maple Leafs. Ed Wood, which I dusted off my DVD to watch this one because with Tim Burton's Beetlejuice, a massive hit. I suddenly watch it again, and it's fabulous. I think it's a wonderful movie, black and white movie because they weren't sure if they're going to get enough money for the budget for an actual color film. But it is the story of Ed Wood, who is widely considered the worst director of all time. Like everyone's like, this guy's awful, and famously made Plan 9 from Outer Space and Glenn or Glenda, and yet. Why dedicate an entire movie but the worst filmmaker ever? Like it's a hell of a conceit for a movie. And the reason why is Tim Burton thinks that there's glory within Ed Wood because at least he was passionate about what he was making. And if at the bare minimum you say to yourself, what makes a good film or what makes a great filmmaker, at the very least, he's passionate about what he was doing. And so on that virtue alone, he can't be a terrible director. And the fact his movie is so notable and like people are aware of the cult appeal that it has, at least I think in Burton's version, he can't be awful because so many people know his work. If you're that notorious, so to speak, you can't be the worst film. The worst film like ever, somebody no one's ever heard of. Like, but Ed Wood people know his movies. Were they messy and screwed up and continuity errors and like ridiculous? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But there's still a kitsch value to it. And the scenes where they're actually shooting the movie and like, they're pointing out continuity issues. Like, it's fine, just go ahead and print it. Like it's hilarious how Ed Wood, nothing would deter him. But it's fabulous all the way around. The best part of the movie is Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi, who's just hilarious in the movie. And Burton said he was drawn to the story because of similarities between Ed Wood's relationship with Bela Lugosi and his own friendship with Vincent Price late in the actor's life. Of course, Vincent Price made all those great schlock movies back in the day. So Burton, you could tell it's a personal movie for him. And Landau's amazing because he comes on really strong, tough and aggressive and profane. And then you see his vulnerability and the fact that this guy was a great actor who has now been reduced to anonymity. He's battling a terrible drug addiction, but he gets another lease on life. Like it's a really sweet performance and very poignant because you can imagine how many actors are out there who never achieved the fame of Bela Lugosi and never have their moment. But this guy had his moment. He was Dracula, for God's sakes, but then couldn't get another role, typecast forever, left bitching about Boris Karloff, that Frankenstein, and was left here as a drug addict. And those great calls, help me, Eddie. But he was amazing. And I love the movie. And it's become a little controversial over time because Sam Jackson is unbelievable in Pulp Fiction and should have won the Academy Award. Let's be clear. That's one of the great performances of the 90s. He's never been better. But when Landau won, I was genuinely happy because I said, you know what? And I know that the cynics would say, oh, what a surprise. Hollywood rewarding Hollywood. It's an actor playing an actor. But I don't think so. I think it's a legit great performance. I wouldn't say split the Oscar. If I had a vote, I'd give it to Sam Jackson. Absolutely. But Landau was a very deserving winner because it's a beautiful performance, especially that last scene where he's filming the video for Eddie. Martin Landau's Academy Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for his portrayal of Bela Lugosi marked the first time in Oscar history that a performer in any category won for playing a movie star. A decade later, Cate Blanchett won a Best Actress in a Supporting Role Academy Award for her portrayal of Katharine Hepburn in Scorsese's The Aviator. Director Tim Burton has variously named this film and Edward Scissorhands as his favorite of his own films. Both star Johnny Depp. Depp is amazing in the movie. He's so funny. He's got such a great charm about him and a real charisma. This was peak Johnny Depp there in the 90s. At the time, he was depressed about films and filmmaking. By accepting the part, it gave him a chance to stretch out, have some fun, and working with Martin Landau, he said, quote, rejuvenated my love for acting. One day, Kathy Wood, Ed Wood's wife, visited the set, asked to meet Johnny Depp. That day, they were filming a scene where Wood would look really messed up, which made Burton nervous for what Kathy would think of the movie. When Depp exited his trailer, she said, that's my Eddie. Unhappy with Vincent D'Onofrio's vocal impersonation of Orson Welles, Tim Burton had his voice dubbed by Maurice LaMarche. Didn't know that, but it is great seeing D'Onofrio there playing Orson Welles, who, of course, is a real inspiration to Ed Wood. And this guy was an auteur long before you thought of auteurs. He wrote, he produced, he directed, he starred. He was amazing. And Glen or Glenda is now a very important film because it's about being transgender. And there's one of the funny scenes in the movie where Ed Wood's hitting on a girl and she's like, well, I thought you were gay. He goes, no, I'm just a transvestite. He's so excited to tell her that. And he says, I just feel great wearing women's clothing. He goes, when I wear Angora sweaters and pumps and heels, I feel great. And later in the movie, they're being financed by like a biblical entity, like a church group. And he's getting frustrated, he's getting difficult. He goes, that's it. I'm just going to just morph into the woman that I am. He puts on his Angora sweater, the heels comes out. They're like, what the? But this is who he was. And again, at that time, very progressive to make a movie like that called Glen or Glenda. I know some people have some issues with the film as far as what its actual value is, but in order to imitate Bela Lugosi's voice and mannerisms, Martin Landau watched approximately 35 Lugosi movies and purchased Hungarian language tapes. With the tapes, he would literally practice the language and see where the tongue would go. When Hungarian-born director Peter Medak, who had directed Martin in Space Warp and The Seance Spectre, saw the film, he called Landau to praise him. Medak said that Landau's accent sounded spot on because you are not an actor trying to do a Hungarian accent. You're an actor trying not to do one. Johnny Depp, by the way, was already familiar with Ed Wood's films through John Waters. He'd shown him Plan 9 from Outer Space, widely described as the worst movie of all time, and Glen or Glenda. And according to Tim Burton, Depp was quite depressed during the making of the film due to his recent split with Winona Ryder. It was even reported the actor would sometimes come to sit with tears in his eyes. Again, it's a hell of a movie. I could give you lots more tidbits here. Landau did not want to deliver an over-the-top performance. Bela Lugosi was theatrical, but I never wanted the audience to feel I was an actor chewing the scenery. I felt it had to be Lugosi's theatricality, not mine. Depp developed a love-hate relationship with Angora sweaters. He jokingly told MTV he learned too much about women's clothing while making the film. Because Angora sheds profusely, Depp joked that in certain scenes, he may have inhaled more Angora than oxygen. And this is my favorite blurb I saw. Johnny Depp said that his characterization of Ed Wood was a mixture of the blind optimism of Ronald Reagan, the enthusiasm of the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz, and Casey Kasem. Yeah, that's right, Casey Kasem. When Tim Burton approached Johnny Depp to star in the film, Depp agreed within 10 minutes. And by the way, Bill Murray's in the movie as well. So if you ever want anything more to like about it, Bill Murray's in the movie. Lugosi continually puts down Boris Karloff and the Frankenstein monster. In reality, he actually played the monster years after Karloff in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. And Rick Baker was concerned about the casting because he was a big fan of Lugosi. He knew Tim Burton, his makeup work, but he designed and created subtle appliances that would alter Landau's features to make him more resemble Lugosi. A set of ears, a nose, a chin, and an appliance to cover the fullness of his upper lip. Landau, Baker, and Neal all eventually won Academy Awards for their work. So the makeup artists, you always got to thank them. It's a great, great film. Make sure you check out Ed Wood. Have you seen it, Harry? Are you familiar with it whatsoever?
No, I'm not familiar with any of this. I didn't know about this movie or the so-called worst movie of all time. I'm curious. I kind of want to go see the movies that this movie is about. I'm curious about the kitschiness of it.
I was about to say, dial it up for Plan 9 from Outer Space or Glenn or Glenda, and then watch Ed Wood and go backwards. All right, let's fly through a couple more here, and then we'll get to our special guest. No Way Out, early Kevin Costner, good thriller. Gene Hackman, I mean, Dan Stanzig's not turning this off. Gene Hackman's in the movie. Come on, let's go. Bit of an oddity now, because I don't know if the ending necessarily works. And listen, no one ever spoiled it for me, so I'm not going to spoil it for you. 37 years later, go watch No Way Out. I thought, one of these twisty thrillers from the 80s, the ending has to stick the landing, and it did somewhat. Like the actual climax, I thought was effective. The last 3 minutes to me is a bit of a reach, but okay. Again, for Costner right now, he's having a tough time with Horizon. I want to go back and see some of his early work. There's no doubt he's charming, he's charismatic, he's handsome, he's a real movie star, and that movie announced him as such. Ronald Donaldson, the director. So I did definitely enjoy the film, and I'm glad that I saw it. It's got a good supporting cast. Hackman, who I normally love, what I disliked about the movie a little bit is that he's a little more ineffectual than normal. Normally, he's tough Gene Hackman. He's not going to take any shit. He's unforgiving, kicking ass as a sadistic sheriff. This time, he gets in some trouble, and he's trying to weasel his way out. I'm like, I don't like my Gene Hackman like this. I like my Gene Hackman like he's tough and kicking ass out there. But I thought he was very effective. The story is this. Navy Lieutenant Tom Farrell, Kevin Costner, meets a young woman, Susan Atwell, played by Sean Young. They share a passionate fling. Farrell then finds out that his superior, Defense Secretary David Bryce, Gene Hackman, is also romantically involved with Atwell. When the young woman turns up dead, Farrell is put in charge of the murder investigation. He begins to uncover shocking clues about the case, but when details of his encounter with Susan surface, he becomes a suspect as well. Roger Donaldson's modern spin on the dense, stylish suspense films of the 1940s features fine work from Gene Hackman and Sean Young, as well as the career-making performance that made Kevin Costner a star. Again, it is very good to see if you're a Costner fan and to appreciate what he was able to do. One of the best films of 1987, a good thriller about a murder and elaborate cover-up. If you're anti-government, if you're out there in the red states going, screw the government, you'll definitely like No Way Out because those people in power, they just can't be trusted, man. And one more here for you. Hot Tub Time Machine. What a pleasant surprise this was. I said, there's no way. I'm going to watch 10 minutes of this movie. That's enough. With all the highbrow movies that I dive into, let me at least give Hot Tub Time Machine a shot. And it was honestly genuinely funny. Four pals are stuck in a rut in adulthood. Adam, played by John Cusack, has just been dumped. Lou, by Rob Corddry, is a hopeless party animal. Craig Robinson, a henpecked husband. And Jacob, Clark Duke, does nothing but play video games in his basement. But they get a chance to brighten their future by changing their past after a night of heavy drinking and a ski resort hot tub results in their waking up in 1986, directed by Steve Pink. Absolutely ludicrous story. I remember when it came out in April, it was a surprise hit. Made $51 million at the box office because it's got fun, it's got great chemistry. And honestly, the reason to watch it is the cast who is so likable and winning, and particularly Rob Corddry is hysterical as Lou, as is Craig Robinson. Both these guys are really funny. There are scenarios in this movie that are so ridiculous. I'll give you the sports example. Rob Corddry, they're watching the Browns game. And he goes, this is the drive, Elway. He's like, they're going to come back. So he sees the guy next to him in the bar. He goes, hey, if the Browns win this game, your wife has to give me a blowjob. And And Craig Rowe's like, well, he's like, no, yeah, your wife's giving me a blowjob. And the guy laughs, goes, all right, no problem. He goes, but if they lose, you have to give your buddy a blowjob. And he's like, yeah, I like your style. Okay. I won't get into what happens, but it's a ridiculous scene, a hysterical payoff. Let's just say it's not what he was hoping for with John Elway. Number 7 did not come through for the Broncos in this one. But the whole alternative reality, the reason I was skittish to watch it was I said, well, this is just cribbing from Back to the Future. Why am I going to watch this? But honestly, it is kind of like there's no DeLorean. There's no sports almanac, but it is genuinely funny. And as I said, the cast is excellent. If you're looking for a laugh for an hour 40, they don't make comedies like they used to, right? Hollywood rarely makes comedies anymore. So you have to go back and watch movies of the past, whether it's The Hangover or Blazing Saddles, wherever it may be. I really genuinely enjoyed Hot Tub Time Machine. Ridiculous situations, outlandish, but very, very funny. And I did genuinely enjoy it. Cusack isn't particularly funny in the movie, by the way. He's very likable, though. I do like him as an actor. It's really Robinson and Corddry that carry the movie and are absolutely fabulous. So, Cape Fear, People versus Larry Flynt, Ed Wood, Hot Tub Time Machine, No Way Out. Now let's get to our special guest. Well, what a thrill to bring in James Maddio. He is a star as Willie Pep in the new movie called The Featherweight, which premiered at the New York Film Festival to rave reviews. And I can't imagine this film will not be a massive success once it does hit a larger audience. In the meantime, it'll be limited engagement in New York, Connecticut, and in the Northeast area. James Maddio, the star of The Featherweight, joins us now. James, great to see you.
Great to see you as well. Thank you for having me. This is a pleasure.
Just take me to last night, because again, you're coming off the premiere at the New York Film Festival. What's it like premiering a new movie? You've worked hard on it. You cannot wait to see what the reaction's like. Take me through the emotions that you felt.
Yeah, I mean, it was a thrill. It's something. It's such a long journey, and for all the creatives and all the key departments, just to see their work, in cinema, especially at that theater at the Roxy, and just watching the response and the Q&A. I mean, I was just thrilled for everybody and their hard work. Just such a, as to Willie Pep saying, is keep punching, and we kept punching, and we got there.
100%. So the story is, in 1964, a camera crew follows retired featherweight boxing champion Willie Pep down and out in Hartford, Connecticut. I used to live in West Hartford, so I know the area well. Married to a woman half his age and facing mounting debts, Pep decides to return to the ring. So it's a great idea, because you say to yourself, all right, another sports movie, another boxing movie. But having watched it, what I thought was unique was that it really is, it's like this faux documentary. Like at times, Willie turns the camera and goes, hey, don't put that in the movie. Or like, it's following him around this journey. So it works in that it feels like a cinema verite style of following this guy who's trying to mount this comeback, which may be ill-fated, but because of the reasons around him, he has to do it. What did you think of the technique specifically?
That's a great question. It's definitely a unique approach to the sports drama, right? And we need to find that, because we need to separate ourselves from other boxing films, and this was independent. I found great freedom in that approach, because I could spike the lens. I don't have to hit a mark. I could improvise. I could go back and forth with the director, with the cameraman. I could tell him to get out of my house. I could welcome him in my house. It was like another character. And for me, a journeyman, 30-something years, you're not really used to that. So it was really nice to kind of work in that aesthetic, and then shoot in Hartford as well, where Willie was born and raised. So just feeling that texture of Hartford, and getting just a community behind us. The stars were aligning with this project, really was. And we were on set. We knew we were doing something special. And it looks like we kind of did so far.
No, 100%. And playing a boxer, man, I mean, that is an enormous physical challenge for any actor. I can tell you're in great shape, but it's one thing to be in great shape and then to be in boxing shape. So how challenging was that?
And that's a difficulty, right? I mean, I think every actor and every person thinks they can fight until they get in the ring and get punched. The training was difficult, but I accepted that. I knew that was going to be a grind. I did what I can as far as what I could control in the independent world, with finances that were sent to me. So, I hung a speed bag in my garage. A jump rope was $15-20, and I would just run and do road work, But then when you get in the ring with actual fighters and you're sparring with them, you recognize that you're really not a fighter. But thank God I was surrounded by and gifted by actual fighters and some retired fighters. And it was great to kind of coordinate with them. I mean, until they hit you. I say this all the time. When you try and tell a fighter, hey, go 50%, they don't know how to do that. So sometimes you're getting clocked. And you're like, all right, man, let's kind of pull back on the gas a little bit. That hurt a little bit. And they're like, that didn't hurt. I'm like, dude, it hurt.
Yeah.
Well, you're trying to play tough. You're like, yeah, man, I'm tough. I'm a fighter. But at the same time, you're thinking, geez, I'm taking a beating out there. But it was fun.
Yeah. No, but that's a great point. It makes you think about Raging Bull. Joe Pesci cracked a rib. Like, we know De Niro obviously famous as Jake LaMotta. It's like you don't know a man's strength when they're in the ring like that.
Right, right. And I did that with Bruce Carrington, who's in who's an undefeated featherweight, who's going to be champion. Mark my words, the kid is an amazing fighter. He's out of Brooklyn, and he's got a huge following at this point. And I'm telling him, I'm like, hey, you could hit me in the side. I'll just bring my arms down. You could get me here. I'm okay. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, you could put a little pressure into that. And he's just putting a little bit of heat, and my body's twisting. I'm just going, well, I'm just taking for a little while, but it was good. I was ready. I enjoyed it. I wasn't going to give up then, man. We got this far. I was going to take those punches.
No, 100%. Like I said, when you're making independent film, anybody who knows it, like every dollar, you're just scratching by, man. It is truly for love of the game. It is a labor of love. So what is that process like? You're on set and it's like, hey, there's no trailers, man. We're just grinding it out as best as we can. But I think in some ways it brings the community together because everyone's really passionate about the project. Is that how you felt on the featherweight?
You couldn't have said any better. That's exactly what happened. Our key department and our creatives started to recognize what was going on and the work that was putting in from the top down, from our producer, writer, Steve Loft, to the brilliant Robert Kolodny, to our producers, Bennett Elliott and Robert Green. Everybody started to recognize that. And that feeling, that trickles down, that goes down, it rolls downhill. And everybody just lifted and started doing the work for the love of the work and understanding what the mission was and what the job was. And we all got the memo. We all got the message. And that's why we hit lightning in a bottle.
How much did you know about Willie Pep before signing on for the role?
I didn't know much. I mean, it took a few years to develop this. The peaks and valleys, the ups and downs. But I didn't know much until my father told me about him. I looked him up and I saw, wow, this guy had 6 wives in his career. He once won a round without throwing a punch, which is remarkable. He holds the record for the most fights. He broke his back in a plane crash when he was champion of the world and came back and won another 100 fights. He hung out with the mafia. He was in debt. And some of his quotes really resonated with me. One of his quotes was, I made $1.2 million in my career and I spent 1.3 of it.
Yeah.
And another quote that he said, which is an epic quote, which is, first you lose your legs, then you lose your money, and then you lose your friends. And that's the fighter's sort of path. And this man is dealing with a wife half his age, his 4th wife. His son is addicted to drugs. His father's ill. His wife is going to leave him. He's back living with his Italian immigrant mother. And he needs to go back into the ring to do what he knows best, to do where he wins. Because outside the ring, he's failing. It's fair to say at this point, 1964, he's failing. He wants to get back in the ring and fight again. And that's what he does. And in 1965, the New York Times had top 10 human interest story, and Willie Pep's comeback was one of them.
You couldn't sell the movie any better. That's great stuff from James Maddio. Listen, as you said, for your own career, right? I think you're late 40s now. I'm probably the same age. I'm 46. It's like you've had a good career, but as you said, to get a lead role like this, how rewarding is that?
It runs parallel with the boxers world. I mean, there was a lot in common with me and Willie, except getting punched in the face, obviously. But you rise up. You're doing stuff like Band of Brothers, Hook, Basketball Diaries, and then you got to reinvent yourself. You got to get back in there, reinvent yourself. You got to fall down the rejection and then get back in again. So to just be here and in the same week have the premiere of The Penguin. I'm on the show The Penguin, and then the same day. The featherweight premieres on Willie Pep's would have been his 102nd birthday. His kismet, man. I mean, it's all like, this is a great week for me. I was telling some of the folks last night that for me as an actor, you want to work, you want to stay busy, you don't want to stop this train, and then all of a sudden you're busy, and you got to remind yourself, don't complain. Don't complain, man. Don't complain. So it's been great. It's been really good. It's been a ride, and I'm very humble and grateful for everything.
That's awesome, man. I can tell you're sincere and genuine about it. Just a quick thought on The Penguin, because I watched the first 40 minutes last night. Of course, episode 1 debuted September 19th. Dark, gritty, and I can't find Colin Farrell. I'm beneath all the latex and the scars and that voice. It's unbelievable.
He was amazing. His transformation is incredible. I couldn't believe it. I'm doing this a long time. I've seen a lot of number ones on a call sheet, and he's probably one of the best. The way he walked on set, the way he treated everybody, the way he respected everybody, it was amazing. Him and Christine, who's equally impressive, if not more impressive, to watch her and him collide on set. movie magic, television magic was happening. And to be in the DC universe, you just don't think that that's ever going to happen. And when it does, you're like, oh my God, I'm in the DC universe. It's incredible. Now I can go to Comic Cons. I'm Milos Grappa. He's the Falcone consigliere, to Michael Kelly, who plays John Vitti. So really cool stuff, man.
Yeah, Christine, you're right. I remember seeing her in Palm Springs. Andy Samberg was hilarious, and I watched her last night. I go, this is a completely different role. I mean, she is owning the screen, and I've seen the reviews, and they're raving with the show and raving at him, but raving about her too. Like it's those eyes, man. It's mesmerizing. Yeah. And by the way, one other thought on Colin Farrell. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but when he takes his sock off in the first episode, and you see how that is gotta be just one of the more disturbing things I've seen in a long time.
There's just so many things they do, and I think it even gets more disturbing. I can't wait to watch most of it because I didn't see much of it. Obviously, you do your part and you leave. DC and HBO, they're very secretive about that. Yeah. So it's great that you're part of it, but they don't let you know anything. So I'm watching stuff in real world in real time as well as you. So just seeing that, and then that little, I don't want to give too much, right? That crunch, you're like, oh man. And then just everything. Him in the chair, it's just amazing. I mean, Lauren Frank and Craig Zobel. I mean, they're just incredibly gifted filmmakers.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, people all want to go see The Featherweight. Where can they see it? New York, Connecticut, limited engagements. Where can they find it?
You can see it at the Quad Cinema in New York City. You can see it all over Connecticut. It's in like 15 theaters and AMCs. And then it's opening up at the Monica Lamley in Los Angeles next week. Right. And then we're hoping for bigger. I mean, the seats, everything's been sold out, which is great. And hopefully we get a wider release. And like you said, we sort of parlay that into distribution, and then we reap the rewards of all our hard work.
Oh, absolutely, man. Hopefully it all works out for you. James Maddio, terrific actor, excellent lead performances. Willie Pep in The Featherweight. James, thanks so much for a few minutes here on Cinephile, and good luck, man.
It's a true pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
All right, thanks once again to James Maddio. You can check out The Featherweight wherever movies are. As we get set to bid adieu, I told Harry, whatever hot takes he has, whatever movie opinions he has, listen, he's available, I'm sure, for other podcasts. And hey, maybe who knows? At the 11th hour, some podcast company is listening right now. My agent has pitched them, but if maybe iHeart has a change of mind, me and Harry will continue Cinephile 2.0 at another podcast company, but I doubt it. So in the meantime, Harry, give us what you got.
All right, I got a few things for you. One, I talked about this first episode, The Raid, best action movie of all time. Gotta watch it. Two, maybe this will go in increasingly order of hot take.
Sure.
Why are big budget Hollywood movies the ones that are previews at movie theaters? We know when Wolverine versus Deadpool is playing. The movie theaters should only show previews for indie films because you're already going to see the Hollywood films, but the preview at the indie film will get you excited about the indie film.
You're bang on, man. You got to figure this out for me because I don't know the answer. When I was your age, late 20s, I loved trailers. At one point, there was like a trailer channel. And I swear to God, I would sit there and just watch trailers. Right now, if you told me the trailer to Face Off is on, I'm like, I'm going to go watch the trailer. Why is it now I never watch trailers? And while going to the movie theater, I will purposely plan to miss the trailer. Meaning the movie's at 4 o'clock. I know it starts 20 minutes late. I'll leave my house at 4 and I'll get there at 4:10, 4:15. I will take my time, go to the bathroom. And I try to slide in. I wouldn't say I'm avoiding the trailer altogether, but if I catch one trailer, okay. If I miss them all, fine. I'm almost willing to miss a bit of the movie. Why is that? Do you think the trailers are not as good as they once were? Or in my mind, have I just realized they're not showing movies that I'm interested in anyways?
I think they're not as good because they matter less. Because Leonardo DiCaprio on Hot Ones is going to sell a movie better than a trailer right now for a major studio Hollywood big budget movie. I don't think that's true for the indie films, for the A24s or even more indie than like a trailer like that can really get a movie, can get somebody excited about a movie.
No, you're right. There's a trailer I just watched, an indie film, which I'd never heard of. It's available on one of these streaming services I have. And you're right. It's about a guy, like a grieving widower who becomes just taking an acting class. And I was like, I'm not going to like that. And the trailer was great. I go, I'm in. Like I would watch the movie right now. 2.5 minutes. I got to look up what it is, but it was like, no, this is like a really good movie that came out this summer. It's like a DD type movie. So you're right. I'm with you. More indie movies. Let's help sell the movies. I don't need to see a trailer to Joker 2.
Okay. Next one. Why isn't Josh Brolin thought of as one of the best living actors of our generation? Let me give you some Josh Brolin hits.
Okay. No Country for Old Men I'm in on. Go ahead.
No Country for Old Men. Inherent Vice. True Grit. Sicario, the Avengers. He's the fucking the main bad guy in the Avengers. He's in Dune. He's in Dune and Dune 2.
Dune's good.
Every single Josh Brolin movie he is in, he is pitching 100 miles an hour.
I'll push back with this Inherent Vice. And P.T. Anderson is one of our favorite filmmakers. I love him, but I'm still confused as to what the hell's going on. I was so excited to watch that movie, and I'm like, it's just rambling non sequiturs. All I remember about the way that I liked was Martin Short. Martin Short's in 2 scenes. I'm like, oh my God, Martin Short's in a P.T. Anderson movie. And he was awesome. I got to push back on Inherent Vice. The other stuff I'll give. Sicario, sure. Yep. And I do like No Country for Old Men. He's a good actor. I'm with you.
All right, last one. This is going to, if somebody was about to buy Cinephile for a year, this is going to get them to not buy it. David Lynch. Don't understand it at all.
Wow.
None of the movies. The smartest people I know tell me that their favorite movies are Mulholland Drive. Their favorite TV show is Twin Peaks. I have watched all of these movies. None of them make sense. That they are completely incoherent. I understand sort of broadly that it can be fun when there's like a strange person dancing in a red room, and that's like that. There's something kind of deeply interesting about that. That's it. Every other element of a David Lynch movie makes no sense. David Lynch himself, seems awesome. Seems like a really cool, thoughtful guy. I love hearing him talk about movies, all that stuff. Everybody I know who likes David Lynch is some of the smartest people I know. The movie, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when I watch a David Lynch movie.
I love that take. Fantastic. My buddy LeBoy is going to be furious. I can't wait to see him on MLB Network. He's like, what? Because he loves Blue Velvet. He's just telling me he ordered Blue Velvet Criterion. I'm like, yeah. Don't you look at me. Frank Booth, Dennis Hopper. Mulholland Drive, I remember seeing in the theater, and you're right. I came out confused with what the hell it was. I mean, a couple of good scenes there, Naomi Watts, et cetera. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Twin Peaks, I never saw. I remember The Sopranos. Remember the Dream episode? Everyone's like, oh, it's very David Lynchian. I'm like, no, I know what it means. Like, I appreciate Lynchian, meaning just strange and weird. But you're right. If someone actually said, explain to me what's happening, you'd be at a loss to do so with a lot of his films.
Completely. And all the acting obviously is this very Lynchian style, but it's like, I read it, to me, I'm like, are we in like a soap opera? Like, what is going on? The whole thing is bizarre to me. So I said this recently at a party, and people were like livid with me. They were like walked out. Like, I was like, I just said something.
Also with your buddy Krinsky, huh? Crapping on Lynch over here. Oh, that's funny.
So those are I just wanted to get those out. But before while I still have a mic in front of me.
Yeah, I love it. And listen, you've been obviously indispensable, and I'm so glad you've been able to take that mic and run with it, which has been great. The best laugh you gave me was when I told you, because I would always send you the rundown. I always appreciate you actually took interest in what I was reviewing. You actually watched Taste of Cherry. You would watch whatever I was watching. And with the Decalogue, you're like, 10-hour Polish film. Like, this guy's not fucking around. Like, what have I got myself into here?
No, I've told that story offline to other people too. I'm like, dude, he fucking loves movies.
This has been an absolute blast. 333 episodes, 8 years. From the top, I got to thank my bosses, Pete Genesini at ESPN for first giving me the green light, Chris Corcoran at Cadence 13, and of course, the triumvirate of John Skipper, Bimal Kapadia, and the great Dan Lebitard at Meadowlark, without whom none of this would have happened. Literally, Dan called me, so I'm bringing your podcast over here, and he made it happen. To the producers, Dan Stanzik, my OG, my number one, able to ride with me from the beginning. I cannot thank you enough. Joe Engelbrecht at Cadence, 99 episodes. I just texted him about his Minnesota Twins. They're completely falling apart. Joe's having a meltdown right now. He might already start looking at the Timberwolves season and just accept the fact that baseball's not going to happen. But Joe is also a real cinephile, loves Miyazaki, so happy when he won the Oscar. Joe, I appreciate you. Chris Cody is right. I will talk to him on Friday, so we're not going anywhere. I'll be on the Dan Lebitard show a ton, but I love Cody. He brought so much humor to the show and really allowed me to kind of venture into different realms I think that I would have normally. It wasn't just movie talk with Cody, it was life talk. And I think he brought the best in me and brought the best in the podcast. And he and I both love Planes, Trains, and Automobiles more than anybody. And of course, to Harry Krinsky. I wish we had more than 13 episodes together, but you are smart, you're insightful, you're interesting, which is probably the most important thing. You never hesitated on what the job was. You were diligent, you were responsive. And as I said, I appreciate the fact you were invested in the product. You also love movies and are a true cinephile. So this was an awesome match, and I wish it could continue. To the contributors to Cinephile, of course, the great Ben Lyons in the Lions Den. He's the guy who got me to the Oscars twice. I will always be indebted to Ben. I cannot believe I worked at the Academy Awards for the Academy and walked the red carpet. That's all thanks to him. Thanks to Everyman with Dan Stanzik. Up in the air with Claire Atkins. Claire's the best. I love the fact that, as she said, More character, less plot. That's her ethos, and she loves Ethan Hawke like me. In defense of my buddy Rick Passmore, who's a filmmaker himself, love the fact he'll support those movies. He definitely hated your David Lynch take. If he's listening to this, I expect a text from him. And don't worry, you can go off on why Harry's nuts. All the great guests, as Dan Stanzik mentioned, I mean, Margot Robbie, Willem Dafoe, Mahershala Ali, Tony Shalhoub, Michael Shannon, Matthew McConaughey, Billy Bob Thornton, Paul Schrader, Barry Jenkins, Will Arnett, Judd Apatow, and of course, Bob De Niro. I cannot thank those people enough for their time and coming on this little podcast. Laura Brandt, Katie Mirvaldes, among the guest bookers that we had. And of course, the cinema. It's an art form that I always love and appreciate, and is deep to my heart. I love talking pictures and what this art form has meant to me and in my life. And of course, most of all, to all of you out there, the fans, too many to mention. I will thank you individually, but I'm deeply indebted to all of you for allowing this passion project to happen, for this labor of love to have found an audience. And I cannot thank you enough. I'm deeply indebted, and I bid you all a very heartfelt good night. So one last time here on Cinephile, thank you for listening, and I will still see you at the movies.